Hi everyone, BJ here for this week's discussion. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to get right to it. So we were asked this week to talk about the inciting event, whether it worked well, what was it in the book. And I think, so in Pierce Brown's Red Rising, I think there are a series of inciting events that kind of grow on each other to kind of create this like powder keg effect. Excuse me. So right from the beginning of the book, we meet Darrow as he is watching his father be hanged by the society. So we see that right away. So that starts kind of, you get a sense that this character is going to be, you know, somebody who's hugely impacted by watching that event as a child, right? So then we meet Darrow, who is like good at his job as a hell diver, and he wins the contest, but then he doesn't get the laurel. And then he has this night with his wife where she plants this seed of rebellion in his mind, and then they get arrested, and then he gets whipped, and then she gets whipped, and then she gets killed, and then he gets sentenced to death, and then he's whisked away, if you remember, by the secret society. And you start to see that there are, you know, bits of him that are, you know, he wants revenge. But what I didn't reveal kind of last time when we were talking about this is there was one final event that kind of just pushed him over the top, as if it wasn't enough to watch Io die. This is what is on page 67. So at this point, Darrow has been taken up to the surface of Mars, and he's been shown this amazing city. And this is what he says on page 67. He says, "My life is a lie. So many times Octavia Alun told us of the Lycos that we are the pioneers of Mars, that we are the brave souls who sacrifice for the race, that soon our toils for humanity will be over. Soon the softer colors will join us once Mars is habitable, but they've already joined us. Earth has come to Mars, and we pioneers were left below, slaving, toiling, suffering to create and maintain the foundation of this empire. We are, as Io always said, the society slaves." And there, if you go on in this scene, it goes on to talk about how the Reds came to Mars 500 years ago, but they started sending other people to Mars in these like semi-terraformed areas 300 years ago. So for 300 years, the Reds have not been the only people, you know, on Mars. There has been life, and they've been toiling, thinking, you know, that they were doing something really noble. And I think it's not even that he finds, you know, that, I mean, all of these things, his wife died, his father died, he got in trouble, like was almost killed. But I think it's when this nobility, this sense of purpose is ripped away from him, that is really the inciting event that pushes him over to finally say, okay, it's time to extract a little revenge, you know. He is exactly the kind of character that you would expect. Again, like, he's in this oppressed society. Push, 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 push. How much can he take before he busts, right? The next question we were asked to look at is identify instances in your reading where they were influenced by some form of research. So in this next section of the book, to kind of extract his revenge, they recreate Darrow as a gold. So they do like some Bionic Man type stuff. I mean, they are like breaking bones and doing like skin grafts and just all kinds of like really crazy medical procedures on him. So I would assume, based on, you know, some of the verbiage that's talking about the human body mechanics and different parts of the body, that some research was done there by the author. Also, if you look at the structure of, once he becomes a gold, he goes to this institute to compete for like his future role in society as a gold. And within that institute, the structure for this test that he has to take, the proctors all have like ancient Greek god names. Their headquarters is called Olympus. And if you look at even just kind of the structure of how this society is set up, where you've got these low people at the bottom who are working in the mines, all the way up to these, you know, the godlike gold, it's very reminiscent of kind of ancient Egyptian and ancient Greek society. So I'm wondering if maybe he did some research in that realm as well. What is the next question we are asked? How does the writer of your novel signal genre in the opening scene or chapter? Well, I think it's pretty clear. Again, right away we see this little snippet of a scene where Darrow's father dies. and this is at the end of that first paragraph. It says, on Mars, there is not so much gravity, so you have to pull the feet to break the neck. They let the loved ones do it. So right away, we know it's some kind of sci-fi, but kind of the severity and the heaviness of this content right off the bat tells you it's going to be a drama. It's not going to be some like fun, you know, space opera type thing. This is going to be a drama. What promises is the writer making to the reader in the opening scene? Well, I mean, again, you see his father die, so you know it's going to be something serious. And then we jump right to this 16-year-old hell diver who's like taking chances, and he's rebellious and he's disrespectful to his elders. And he like takes some crazy chances with his life. So I think right away, you know, it's going to be adventurous. You know, it's going to be, you know, high stakes. And it continues just like that throughout the rest of the book. What POV has the author chosen, and is it effective? So this book is written in first person, which I think has kind of become the gold standard for kind of YA, kind of dystopian, post-apocalyptic type stories. If you think about like Hunger Games, or you think about, what's the other one? Divergent, those, even Maze Runner, they're all written in first person. It's just very, why? Because a lot of this story, yes, it's plot driven, but it's also about character development, right? You want to see the journey from where this person started to who they become at the end because of all of the things that happened to them. So I think that makes sense. Now, for me, I did not necessarily connect with like a really deep first person kind of persona in Darrow. I always felt like I was just kind of sitting right off his shoulder, and somehow I could hear his inner thoughts. This story is not written as if you're kind of watching it happen through his eyes. Like what if you read Hunger Games, I really did feel that way. This one feels more like Darrow is kind of just recounting what happened, but it's in the past. And so there are also several places, you know, when we're talking about the article that we read this week about POV distance, there are several places where Darrow has opinions about things, or he makes statements about how others are feeling, that the way that it's presented is it's as if he knows, but there's no way he could truly have known that. And so it's a really interesting, I wouldn't say it's necessarily omniscient, because he still frames it, you know, in this way that you kind of understand that he's inferring, but the way that he's just really forward with it, it's not like he looks like he was thinking this, or I felt like he was, you know, thinking this. He just says this is what he was thinking. So again, I think that kind of adds to it's not this really deep kind of, we're watching the story through Darrow's eyes, we're just hearing him tell it. Was it effective? I mean, yeah. I mean, I was still reading. I still was excited to find out what happened next. Honestly, I think if it had gone too much deeper, kind of first person, where we're really getting kind of the outlook of a 16-year-old boy, I'm not sure I would have been able to connect with his character at all. It would have just been really, it would have felt kind of juvenile, maybe a little bit for me. But I think the author found a nice kind of balance between still having a very young character, but dealing with some, you know, fairly adult topics in this book, although that's also very common for YA nowadays. But all in all, I think POV selection was effective, and it's making me debate, you know, in my post-apocalyptic book, whether I want to do first person or whether I want to try to do it in third. All right, anyhow, talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.